Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Troy, your host. We are live and recording.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I call the meeting to order, we will have an invocation today, and we're really pleased and thankful to have Pastor Mike Behemus from The Rock joining us today. Pastor?
Honored to be with all of you this afternoon on a beautiful day, by the way. I was just praying before I came over here about just what to pray into, and I'm just going to read this and then pray into it. This comes from Revelation 2, and it says this. It says, I know your deeds, your hard work, your perseverance. I know that you don't tolerate the wickedness, and you've been tested. It says this, it says, you have persevered and you have endured hardship for my name and have not grown weary. But then he says this, but I hold this against you. You have forsaken your first love. And I love how the Lord positions us. He shows us the good things that we're doing, and then there's the opportunity to do even better, to do more. And I felt like this is an opportunity for us in this season just to understand love and to love in a greater way. So if you go to 1 Corinthians 13, it says, if I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but I do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and I can fathom all mysteries and knowledge, and I have a faith that can move mountains, but I don't have love, I'm nothing. And if I give all I possess to the poor and I surrender my body to the flames, and I do not have love, I gain nothing. And so this is the prayer I just want to pray over us as we are here today. And it comes out of Ephesians 3. And it says this. It says, I pray that out of the riches of his glory, that he may strengthen us with power through his Holy Spirit in our inner being, so that Christ may dwell in our hearts through faith. And I pray that we, being rooted and established in this love, that we may have the power together to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that goes beyond knowledge, so that we may be filled to the fullness of God. Lord, I pray today just for your love to saturate the hearts of every person. Lord, that we would be a county that continues to love in amazing ways, to impact this community. Lord, I thank you for our commissioners and the work that they're doing. I pray for a strength over them. I pray for your wisdom and a revelation to come upon them. And Lord, I thank you that we will be a county that is known by our love. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pastor, thank you so much for that. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 1:33 p.m. on Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. If you'll all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. Attorney Garcia, do we have certification of the agenda today?
You do, sir. You do, sir. County Attorney's Office have reviewed all items on the agenda, and you have appropriate jurisdiction over all items.
Okay, thank you very much. And today, Commissioner Teal is not with us, so Commissioner Thomas and I will be governing this meeting. He does have an excused absence. I'll ask if any commissioners have disclosures for items on this agenda today.
I have none, thank you.
And I have none either. With that, we'll move on to our consent agenda, and we were asked to pull item P and item G. P was pulled and will not be heard. Item G will be pulled from consent and heard. Let me first ask, is there any citizen comment with regard to any item on this consent agenda? Any citizen comment? Any citizen comment online?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Okay, thank you very much, Troy. And with that, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and or a motion.
I have a motion to approve the requests in all items A through F and H through O of the consent agenda.
And I will second that in Commissioner Teal's absence. Is there any further discussion?
I'll just again indicate what you said, Commissioner Layden, that item P is being pulled and will not be heard at all, and item G is being pulled only so that it can be heard and discussed.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries 2-0. So with that, we will move on to item G, which was pulled and will be heard. And I believe Maggie Cooper, Special Projects Manager, is presenting for staff. Hi, Maggie.
Commissioners, first and foremost, please excuse my appearance. I was touring a farm this morning with our resource specialist from the community response team.
That's the most Douglas County thing I've heard all day. That's perfectly fine.
So thank you. Yes, today I'm here to talk about the contract with the Colorado Department of Human Services Behavioral Health Administration for the Children, Youth, and Family Services grant. We applied for these grants through this state BHA ARPA grant process in January. This was part of a package application. The other two grants are for community-based mental health first aid certification and instructor trainings and funding for our youth care compact development. This item was to fund affirm training for CRT clinicians, community-based clinicians, faith-based partners who have mental health clinicians interested in the training, and we chatted with the Douglas County School District about opening up this training opportunity to clinicians on their staff. This is for Affirm training. The Affirm training programs are rooted in 25 plus years of practice experience, which is integrated with cutting edge research on providing competent mental health services for LGBTQ plus youth and adults, as well as parents and caregivers. The Douglas County Mental Health Initiative was approached by St. Andrews about a need for this type of training on their clinical staff. Our CRTs also shared the same feedback, and we had heard similar concerns from the school district about wanting some competencies for their behavioral health staff in this area. So we pursued this training and received the grant funding. The training will be offered to community response team clinicians and resource specialists, school district behavioral health personnel, partners in the faith community, and community-based therapists through the Affirm National Training Program. I'll stop there and open it up to any questions that you would like to hear more about.
Maggie, thank you for that. Are there any questions for staff?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
I don't either, and I'm actually really thrilled to see this. This is a fantastic partnership, it appears, between what we do as government, the faith-based community in St. Andrews, and a very vulnerable population in the LGBTQ plus youth, which we know are facing a high incidence of suicidal ideation in our community. So I'm proud to support them in our faith-based community in the work that we do. Let me ask if there's any citizen comment. Is there any citizen comment in the room or online with regard to this item? Ma'am, and if you'd like to come up and state your name and where you're from, you can certainly comment. And we're not taking questions at this time, but if you want to comment, you can.
I was just wondering how much funding she got. I was hoping a lot.
Okay.
I know the serious nature of these young youth that we need to support. These are our noble generation that will fight for us when we need it. But I appreciate so much the integrity of this community. And I just want to say something. We're pretty responsive. So my thought this week, and I'll just leave it at one sentence, was if you're going to really think about how we're responding to one another in these times of crisis, now that we're facing different challenges for our children as they proliferate war in their face and a lack of hope and more desperation of a future that doesn't hold much, that many might believe that it doesn't, but I do. So my thought was that let's think one more second before we react. And if we can't react appropriately and our response is going to be something we are, the word I would say is I had a very heavy incident this week, so it's on my mind. Let's take one more minute to breathe for each other as we face unprecedented times, economically for some, emotionally, financially, whatever it takes for us to get through this together. And I love this community. I saw flags along Highlands Ranch Parkway, and my kids are in the military. She's at the front line. She's a fighter pilot. She trains the men who fight for us, freedom. And I have associations with many, many people who are here, Venezuelan family, Iraqi. I'm helping an Iraqi family right now. He got stuck in Michigan, and a mother who doesn't speak English and runs a store and behind in rent. And I thought the challenges are real for all of us, no matter what we face. And let's hold hands. Let's take one more breath before we act. And we are Christians, as apparently, or at least what you believe, as Allah, whatever rises us in the morning, the sun, that we take one more breath to look at each other, that our humanity rests upon moving people, not technology, that our response can wait one more second to be more human. And I am so appreciative of my new life that I have been able to establish that I feel more comfortable with the law that governs us. And we have several laws. The constitutional law, we have a democracy that rests on constitutional law. And we have what I believe a God law that rests on more higher principles of a better law of Christianity or Allah or whatever you believe that rises you, the sun.
And ma'am, if you want to just state your name and where you're from, I missed that piece.
I am not good at this at
We
all.
know who you are,
I'm
but
like
for the
a frantic
record.
thought of, I'm a writer. You know what a writer does? We swim in paper instead of water. We'd rather have paper than water would. My name is Jill Campbell.
Ms. Campbell.
And I
were you-
said nothing I came up to say, but let's just have more hope for each other.
Well, thank you for sharing that thoughtful comment with us. We certainly appreciate that. Any additional citizen comment, either in person or online?
Commissioner, I have no online comment.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and or emotion.
The question was raised, how much of this is the grant? And we usually get it in the front page. I'm disappointed we missed it this time. But according to the packet, it's $26,897. Is that correct, Maggie?
That's correct for fiscal year 23-24, and then we received $26,897 for 24-25, for a total of about $52,000.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you.
Maggie, quick question. I'm really thankful for our robust partnership with the Board of Education and the leadership that they demonstrate throughout our county. Is there anything associated with this grant that would require them to institute this program?
No, sir, absolutely not. The Douglas County School District is a longtime partner of the Douglas County Mental Health Initiative, and as such, this training will be offered to their behavioral health staff. But it would be up to school administrators and individual counselors themselves if they wanted to opt in to receive this training as part of their practice or not.
Okay, so it's permissive, not mandatory.
That's correct.
Okay, and just an additional tool for those that may be working in behavioral health.
Absolutely.
Across the street. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Just wanted to make sure and field that question for our respected colleagues. Any other discussion?
I would like to say, Maggie, thank you, Barbara, for the work you've done. This Board of Commissioners spent $1.5 million to the community that, in the form of grants, for individuals to get help, to have a means so that they would not end up a number in a column on a suicide line. The issue of suicide is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. From 2004 until 2011, I researched homicides and suicides in the state of Colorado for a federal grant called the National Violent Death Reporting System. Colorado had just received the grant in 2004 when I was hired to work on the project, so I had to develop the project and how we obtained the information from law enforcement. And as I was receiving information from 246 law enforcement agencies in the state, and reading these cases and collecting the data, the purpose of this project is a problem well-defined is half solved. So if we want to solve what suicide and homicide are, we need to understand what they are first. And I read thousands of cases of homicides and suicides during those 7 years. And after the first year, I had seen an uptick in the number of people who had taken their lives, who family members and friends said they were struggling with their sexuality. There was something with their sexuality that they were dealing with. If they had accepted it, perhaps their family hadn't. But there were so many incidents of this that when we talked with the CDC in Atlanta, Georgia, they actually added a risk factor in the data that we were collecting for sexuality concerns, because it has proven over the years to be a risk factor, and the population that struggles with their sexuality has a higher incident of suicide. And that's why I am so pleased that this county stands tall and is willing to accept these grants and then provide them to groups that help people accept who they are and learn how to deal with life when others don't accept them. So they don't see suicide as the only option available to them. And I am, after citizen comment is over now, I just want to say that I absolutely support this grant, and I appreciate those that have requested this money and the work they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas, and I have to extend my deep gratitude and appreciation to my colleague. I think that was incredibly well stated in her experience in law enforcement, and as the coroner of our county, deeply resonates with me. I have not had the experience of sitting at a kitchen table with families that are grieving, but I know that you have, Commissioner Thomas, and you've seen these significantly powerful stories. For me, as a member of the faith-based community and a member of the LGBTQ plus community, I look out at these seats, and it's, a lot of empty seats in this room, and it reminds me that each seat would represent millions of young people that would say that they are people of faith, perhaps. In some camps they might not, but in many, a lot of Christian young people that don't have a black and white sexuality, we're told that they weren't loved. We're permitted to be in the back of their churches or anywhere near the front. We're permitted to be in schools. We're permitted to be in their workplace. And so they had no other choice than to be disenfranchised from their families, oftentimes disowned, and relegated to really dangerous behaviors and oftentimes suicide. I am incredibly thankful for the work of the faith-based community and the love that our pastors and our churches have demonstrated towards people with whom they may not always agree, but showing that love. And for me as a Christian, the love of Christ, I believe that's exactly where Jesus would be, is with those who are struggling. So I really appreciate this. And the fact that it's permissive, if you don't want the training, you don't have to have it, but the fact that it's there is really significant to me as one commissioner, so thank you. Let me ask if there's any further discussion. If not, I'll accept a motion.
I have a motion to accept item G on the consent agenda.
I will second that motion. Is there any further discussion?
And maybe I should say the word approve instead of accept. I apologize.
Okay, and I'll accept that friendly amendment. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries 2-0. With that, we will move on to item 3 today, which is our regular agenda. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to hear that item that was pulled from the consent agenda. Item 3A is a memorandum of understanding between the Colorado Judicial Department, Arapahoe County, Douglas County, Elbert County, and Lincoln County regarding implementation of CRS Section 13.3.118. Dan Avery, Special Projects Manager, presenting for staff. Hi, Dan.
Hello, thank you, Commissioners. As the Board of County Commissioners is aware, House Bill 201026 began a process that will lead to the division of the 18th Judicial District, which currently includes Arapahoe, Douglas, Elbert, and Lincoln counties, and ultimately the formation of the 23rd Judicial District comprised of Douglas, Elbert, and Lincoln counties. That transition will occur in January of 2025. That 2020 bill anticipated that the 4 counties would incur one-time transition costs and that the state would consider assisting with those costs. During the 2023 legislative session, the General Assembly passed SB 23-230, providing an initial appropriation of $668,600 for the 2023-2024 state fiscal year to reimburse counties for consulting fees and transition project management expenses. This memorandum of understanding before you today defines how the Colorado Judicial Department will administer those funds. The funds are to be administered on a reimbursement basis, and counties are responsible for mutually agreeing on reimbursement requests and for affirming that the eligible expenses are consistent with legislation. The MOU can be renewed if up to $4 million in anticipated additional funding is appropriated in the 2024-2025 fiscal year. Those funds could be used for paid time off payouts for District Attorney's Office employees who transition to the new district and for transitional IT costs. County staff, including myself, Tom Curtis in IT, Martha Marshall in Budget, Laura Leary, and Bobby Curry in HR, have all been working with the DA's office closely for over a year in preparation for this transition, and we believe that the 23rd Judicial District DA's office will be well positioned to staff up in 2024 and operate as of January 7th of 2025. Commissioner Thomas, Deputy County Manager Barbara Drake, and Scott Madsen in Community Justice Services have worked closely with Judge Slade and more recently with Judge Stewart, who was recently named as the administrative judge for the 23rd Judicial District, to understand judicial needs through this transition and to plan for specialty courts in the 23rd Judicial District that will serve the needs of Douglas County. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Dan, for that. Any questions for staff?
Dan, I'm just going to blow your horn for you because you have done such amazing work on this project. And there were a lot of days we weren't quite sure what was going to happen or what we needed to do when we had to go down to the Capitol and talk to the budget analyst. But you were there with your notebooks and your figures, and you had a lot to do with getting this across the finish line, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas, and I'll echo that sentiment, Dan. You have been all hands on deck and the captain of many ships, really helping guide research and analysis and public policy for the Board of County Commissioners in partnership with our esteemed County Manager, Doug DeBoard, and all those that labor on behalf of those we serve. So thank you for that great work, and this was no small task. Certainly appreciate it. With that, let me open it up for any citizen comment. Is there any citizen comment either in person or online with regard to this item?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Okay, and with that, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and or emotion.
I'd like to use this opportunity for those of you who don't understand what JD 23 is, because there is no Judicial District 23 right now. This all started in August of 2018 when then District Attorney George Brockler was giving a budget request to the Board of Commissioners. And I remember looking at those numbers, and at the time I believe it was Roger Partridge who was with me. I don't think Commissioner Layden had joined the board yet. It's probably Diane Holbert who was there. It was Diane. And it's like, wait a minute. We give the DA's office $8 million and we're getting $5.5 million back in services. And we were subsidizing other counties. And we worked with legislators and the commissioners in Arapahoe County and Elbert County and Lincoln, and we decided there had not been a new district attorney's office created since the 1960s. And this was a wonderful opportunity for us. And we got this bill signed in March of 2020, the week before everything shut down because of COVID. And it seemed like a long runway to get there, but it's not a long runway at all. And I'm really looking forward to everything that all the communities put together so that the 18th Judicial District stays in Arapahoe County, and the new Judicial District in January of 25 will be Douglas, Elbert, and Lincoln counties. There's just so many moving parts to this, but what I have seen from everyone involved is the opportunity to put their fingerprints on history and create this new judicial district that's going to serve our community much better than the current situation we have, because it's just too large. So Dan, again, thank you for everything you've done, and I'm in absolute support of this.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Thomas, and thank you for your work with JD 23. I know that's a big undertaking for you as well. I also will be in support of this. I don't have any additional questions. So with that, I will accept a motion.
I have a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Colorado Judicial Department, Arapahoe County, Douglas County, Elbert County, and Lincoln County regarding implementation of Colorado Revised Statutes 13-3-118.
I'll second that. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries 2-0. With that, we'll move on to item 4, which is citizen comment organization comments. At this time, you are welcome to comment about any topic other than what has already been scheduled on today's regular agenda. You will be prompted, as you were, to comment on those items at the appropriate time. This is an opportunity to share your thoughts and ideas with us. If you would just state your name and where you reside prior to making comments, you'll have up to 3 minutes, and then commissioner comments, if any, will follow all citizen comments. Is there any citizen comment today? Yes, ma'am. Welcome back.
It's very nice to be here. Thank you. I'm Katie Barrett. I live in Castle Rock. And I was going to skip commenting this week, but then I read the papers, and I am so concerned about George Teal and the Water Commission. I'm disappointed he's not here because I wanted him to know that his actions have given me renewed energy to push back and a renewed love of history. I've had a chance to review the Tammany Hall scandal in the late 1800s to mid-1900. Corruption and cronyism gripped New York. You have earned the new nickname Boss Tweed, Mr. Teal. Your blatant actions surrounding the Water Commission border on the criminal, as well as showing your true self. George, you are someone who's always on the lookout for grifting opportunities. Perhaps not for you, but for your longtime pals. Supporters of truth and good governance are examining your connections to RWR, your cronies, and other swamp dwellers. George, you have evolved into an undisputed swamp creature named Boss Swamp. We're watching because we believe government can and should do better, electing candidates with integrity. And Mr. Layden, I have to also express that I'm disappointed that you have not pushed back more against this Water Commission, and especially the type of people that George in particular wants placed on this board without, bless you, without water experience and knowledge. It's development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Is there any additional citizen comment today? Okay, any citizen comment online?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Okay, thank you. And then I will just move up our item 7 for commissioner comments to now, if there's any commissioner comments.
I do have some.
Okay.
So first of all, let me just set these out here. I know I spent the weekend watching the news to see what was happening in Israel. And I imagine many of you here and online did the same. So I looked up to see how big Israel is. It's the size of New Jersey. It's a small landmass that has 9.3 million people living on it. And it made me, when I saw what was happening on Saturday, I thought, you know, I wonder if they feel like we did on 9/11. And I was trying to figure out what it felt like, how many people were lost. So in 9/11, there were almost 3,000 people lost on American soil. So if we were to put that into context, the number of people they lost in Israel, to put that into what we would have to lose in America to feel that same feeling would be 35 to 40,000 people. Imagine how we would feel if we lost 35,000 people on American soil to terrorists. So that made me start to think. I had kind of been adopted by a Messianic Jewish community several years ago. And they invite me to their holidays, their celebrations. And when I walk into their facility, I have to tell you that there is a level of love and peace that is unbelievable. And so I thought, I am going to reach out to Rabbi Messer and give him the opportunity to write a statement that I could read today on his behalf. And after he was done at an event in Florida last night at 9:30, he wrote this. And so I am reading this statement that was written by Rabbi Ralph Messer. On the morning of Saturday, October 7th, 2023, as Jews worldwide celebrated the feast days of Sukkot and Simchat Torah, Israel, the world's only Jewish state, was invaded by land, sea, air, and brutally attacked by terrorists of the Hamas-ruled Gaza Strip. This shocking, unprovoked attack on the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War was the most deadly killing of Jews since the Holocaust. At least 900 people have died, and 2,600 others have been injured in Israel after Hamas fired thousands of rockets towards Israel, and an estimated 1,000 fighters crossed into the country from the neighboring Gaza Strip. Israeli officials have also said that at least 100 civilian and soldiers have been taken hostage. In the wake of this atrocity, Jews in Colorado, across the United States, and the world have condemned the premeditated attack on sovereign Israeli territory by Hamas terrorists. The Jewish people, despite being attacked, mutilated, and murdered for millennia, for 3 millennia, will continue to stand. The hatred of Jews and the world's only Jewish state only exists because evil exists. From the days of Pharaoh to Haman, and from Hitler to Hamas, they have tried to eliminate us. They have blamed us. They have crafted conspiracy theories, but still we stand. The words of the Nazis are still reverberating through the mouths of the terrorists. But today we put Hamas on notice. We say, never again. We will never surrender. We will never leave our biblical homeland. We are strong. We are courageous. We are a miracle. We will stand resolute. Our thoughts and our prayers are with Israel's security forces, the innocent victims and their families. We stand in solidarity. Even as the history books are being rewritten, Israel will always prevail. As the situation in Israel remains volatile, and with the borders under threat, we believe in Israel's right to self-defense. We know that terrorists will be destroyed, and we know that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob remains Israel's shield and protector. And again, I read this on behalf of Rabbi Ralph Messer from the Simchat Torah B8 Midrasha. And I'd just like to say that this is a prayer shawl, and that I got these items from the rabbi the very first time I visited his community. So I just want to say that Douglas County, I believe, stands with Israel. So thank you for this time.
Commissioner Thomas, thank you so much for that very powerful comment, and I no doubt would echo those sentiments and say that we do stand with Israel and all people that have suffered from the atrocities in the Middle East. My hope is that the grand experiment of the United States, where people from different backgrounds learn to coexist and live with one another, can permeate the Middle East, and those that are seeking violence against one another can eventually cease that. Although in my lifetime it has been just horrific to see it continue to be at this level, but thank you for that comment. It's unfortunate that Ms. Barrett left, because I did want to address the Water Commission, and I often have stated that if you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. For 15-plus years, our citizens have asked us, through our citizen survey, to centralize our water services in Douglas County and to be proactive about how we plan for our water future. We know that water is a very scarce and precious resource, and so having a water commission charged with developing a 2050 comprehensive water plan is exactly what our citizens have asked of us. In fact, they returned surveys asking for that in the 87 to 91 percentile. So overwhelming support for the work that we're doing. I will say, I'm not afraid of big ideas, and I know that many people like to cast stones at those that have come up with significant concepts in our community. RWR is one of them, and Sean Tonner specifically approached us when there was a $68.2 million set of ARPA funds that the county was tasked to appropriate. We did end up using north of $30 million for a water wastewater project in Douglas County that we're really proud of. Commissioner Thomas and I both voted against the RWR proposal, but I didn't vote against it because I believe that they're bad people or they shouldn't have big ideas. I just had independent legal water experts recommend to us that now is not the time, and there were really significant legislative hurdles to moving that forward. But I do hearken back to projects like T-Rex in our state, where Governor Owens faced a lot of criticism for trying to expand that corridor. And I see Art in the back, who was intimately familiar with, I'm sure, a lot of what was going on along I-25. But we now have this vital economic corridor that's like the Nile in Egypt. I mean, we just would not be able to exist without the expansion of I-25, and nobody remembers the complaints about the big idea. So I'm not afraid of big ideas. The big ideas have to make sense, and we have to have willing communities. I'm from the San Luis Valley, or at least my family hails from there, so I never want to do anything to communities that they're not willing to participate in, and that was one reason I voted against it. But who knows what the future may hold. So I hope we continue to be regional leaders in the water conversation, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this board recommends. With that, we'll move on to any additional business. I'll just ask my fellow commissioner and the county manager any additional business for today.
The only thing I would ask, if I could have my thoughts put as an exhibit with the minutes, please. Thank you. I have nothing else.
Okay, great. And then we'll move on to item 6, our county manager. Anything from the county manager?
Nothing today.
Okay. And of course, that county manager report is wonderful, and it's in the board packet. We've done our commissioner comments. The next business meeting will be held on Tuesday, October 24th, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. We are adjourned.